So good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk about the Andhra Pradesh project. I thought I'll quickly introduce you to what this project is all about, because by any standards this is the biggest project in the government sector in the country. This project is named as Rajiv Yuvakiranalu. It has a legacy of 5 to 6 years. Various government departments did run skill building programs for a long time, and this program actually synthesizes their learning and makes it more comprehensive. And the vision of the project is we basically target non-literate, school dropout and unskilled unemployed youth in the country. So we are not really talking about graduates, we are not talking about technical graduates, but they are basically the rural youth, and they are mostly illiterate or they are very poorly literate. And then the first goal post is to reach 15 lakh jobs by 2014 and 15. So I'll quickly explain, I won't take much time. We have extensive institutional arrangements, right from a council which is headed by the Chief Minister himself, which also has membership from the industry and academia. Then we have REMAP, which is a society. I am the mission director to this society, and this society coordinates various efforts sparked in various government departments. Like we've been talking about 17 Government of India ministries implementing these programs, and there's not an effective coordination mechanism there. So REMAP in Andhra Pradesh addresses that issue. So that is broadly our organizational structure, and there are 7 government departments which are implementing these programs. They have different streams of funding, and REMAP as a society coordinates their efforts and then also provides a number of common services. And broadly our strategy is that we consciously target the bottommost of the pyramid, and then we have an electronic registry of unemployed youth. We have a portal wherein anybody can register for employment. We have about 6 lakh youth already registered for employment in the last 3.5 months, and 80% of these youth are from rural areas, and roughly 70% of them are men, and only about 30% are women. And then we also propose to map job opportunities. In the same portal we have a service where any employer can log in and report vacancies, and then we will try to interact with that industry and then organize job specific training programs. Then we have an industry focused skill development program, and our endeavor is firstly to identify vacancies in the industry and then run a relevant training program, and the training program should ultimately result in the job. Because government has a lot of experience in running these training programs earlier, I think 2-3 decades of experience, and we have not had much impact. We could not create much impact because most of them could not result in an employment, and youth on their own were also unable to find employment themselves. So in this program we want to keep the vacancies at the center and then run training programs specific to these vacancies in a given industry. And then we also have an elaborate post-placement follow-up mechanism, and we do have very strong collaboration with Government of India and industry as well. So that's quickly our roadmap. Then I would like to explain briefly the post-placement and pre-placement services that we are providing. As I've already explained, we have an online registration mechanism. Many of you said sourcing is a big problem. We have a registry, and we also have 2-3 other databases, and altogether I think we will have more than 10 lakh unemployed of the state available with us. Then we have house-to-house surveys which are conducted periodically. These house-to-house surveys actually are prior to our online registration process, but we have about 10 lakh youth data which we prepared as a result of our house-to-house survey. Then we have Andhra Pradesh is very well known for its SHG federations, and every month the federation at the mandal level, which is roughly equivalent to the block, has a meeting to deliberate their own issues, but in that meeting we compulsorily make it a point that all the unemployed youth of these SHG households do gather in the meeting, and then from our side the jobs personnel approach them to counsel youth and also to encourage them to come and enroll in the training programs, or to capture what their aspirations are as far as the jobs are concerned. Then word of mouth and local advertising, etc. So these are all various ways through which we compile our registry of unemployed youth, and then while we compile we also capture their preference for the job. So this is our portal where we have the candidate registration module and we have the employer registration module. We have roughly about 50,000 to 60,000 vacancies reported by various industries in Andhra Pradesh. And as I said, about 6 lakh youth already registered there. Then coming to the pre-training counseling, we do have necessarily pre-training counseling as an integral part of our training, because in the government driven programs there are a lot of problems since as far as the dropout rate is concerned, and we find that pre-training counseling is an effective way of bringing down this dropout. So we do gather all those, say if we want to run a textile training, all those candidates who have given textiles as their first preference, we gather them at a place. And then we try to explain them what is the duration of the course and where the job is going to be, what the salary profile is likely to be, and what are the other perks, shifts, etc. So this kind of a counseling is given, and then it is also important where we run the training program, especially if we are servicing remote rural areas, tribal areas. They are not very keen on coming to say Hyderabad or surrounding Hyderabad to undergo training. So these are all some of the important inputs given to them during the pre-training counseling. Then another important concept that we have is this finishing school, which is a very good intervention that we have in Hyderabad. And what we do in this finishing school is basically give them a module of soft skills. It's about a 2-week module, and we try to mobilize youth who are say training for IT, ITES or retail kind of jobs. And the last 2 weeks of that training, they come to Hyderabad, and then they are basically given soft skills, and then on how to face the interview, what are the kinds of questions that are normally asked. And we in fact take them on tour to some of the regular employers like McDonald's or some big bazaar and all. We take them and show them this is how the environment is going to be for working. And this is important because basically our clients come from the rural areas and tribal areas, and they are not very familiar with these metros. And we find the overwhelming concentration of jobs is in cities. So there is a very big gap insofar as their expectation about the environment is concerned. So these things we find are extremely useful. In addition to these exposure trips, we also encourage students who stabilize in the jobs and who have seen some growth in the job to come and talk to them, so that they get over that inhibition and then try to see their own prospect in such a job. Then we also have an alumni, and we do encourage them to come back to the finishing school at regular intervals and get together and then discuss their problems or issues. Then we have one facilitation center in every district, and this is we call it RYK Facilitation Center. It is manned by two people, and this is like an information dissemination center, plus there are also certain services delivered to students, including registration and what all courses we run as a part of RYK, and then what is the duration, so on and so forth. So this is like a one-stop service delivery center for all those who seek information or who try to know about the RYK program. Then we have actually a lot of work done in the post-placement service, because we find that this attrition at very high levels of attrition, a very big problem in this. And then in a government sector where such massive funding is going into, it will become a very big problem after some time. You don't know where these people are, who are all trained and then placed at one point of time. So we have a lot of elaborate arrangement as far as the post-placement services are concerned. And these are the 5 cities where most of our boys and girls go for employment. So in these 5 cities, in fact, we have a post-placement services center, support services center open, and this support services center maintains a directory of hostels, because accommodation is a very big problem, and then affordable accommodation is a real nightmare to these boys and girls. And we don't run accommodation on our own, but we do maintain a directory of 200 to 300 hostels in every one of these cities. And you all know that in cities, not many house owners are willing to give houses to these single boys and girls. Everyone is afraid. So those who are into this business, we maintain a directory and guide these students that they can go there and then get themselves enrolled. And mostly the charges are about 1,500 to 2,500 depending on how much they can pay. And then we also help them get bus passes, open a bank account, or get a PAN card or insurance, etc. And then we help them network with other students, especially students coming from one area. We maintain a directory and then we introduce them to students coming from that area working in other parts of the city. So that also makes their stay a little more comfortable. And then we do provide them some counseling about further opportunities and promotions and then higher education, so on and so forth. These are the few issues. In fact, though the topic is about financing the support services, from a government perspective, I find that financing is least of our concerns. It's more I'm really unable to resolve this contradiction of there being so many vacancies available, there being so much of unemployment in the villages, and then there is such a high level of attrition. Even today we go to villages, I think 20-25 years of my experience in the government, I don't find much changing in the villages, in terms of so many youth loitering around, sitting somewhere gossiping. And agriculture is not really helpful in the sense, we find such a big change from food crops to commercial crops, and the indebtedness is so high these days. This is not even food security. If you remove that PDS from the governance, I think people will starve to death in India. So we find so much of indebtedness, and then there is no right opportunity for the youth, and they are anxious to come out and then get employed. They do get employed, but then in no time they drop out, and then there are vacancies and these people, I don't know, it's such a tremendous contradiction now. And I am glad that some of the previous speakers did mention this, the candidates' aspiration, even we are victims of this. There is such an overwhelming preference to IT and ITS. And then the expectations of salary, whether you are 10th fail or whatever you are, they have 10,000 rupees in their mind, or they have 12,000 rupees in their mind. Maybe for graduates it's much higher, but this 10th fail and non-literate, definitely that is the kind of expectation. I think thanks to privatization, etc., we see so many things being available but not really accessible to individuals. And then from rural areas, definitely they don't want to go very far, especially from tribal areas. A lot of employers approach us because tribals have much higher loyalty to an employment once they get into a job. But then they are very clear that they would like to be as close as possible. Say in Visakhapatnam, there are opportunities, only tribals from Paderu will come, but not from any other area. So they have very strong preference to the local area. And there are also financial issues if they go very far, commutation. So even if they have to come once in 3 months or 6 months, it's a very big problem. Then as far as the employers are concerned, I find that also very intriguing. We had sector-wise interaction with several CEOs, textiles, BPO and retail, so on and so forth. We seem to be having terrible love for cheap labor. And it's so difficult, everyone, we start off saying that there are so many vacancies. Everybody says, yes, I have so many vacancies. You give 10,000 people or you give 5,000 people, we have enough vacancies. But even if, once we start talking about there being a remunerative wage structure, proper working condition, and there is so much of resistance, I'm sorry, yeah, I'll finish off. There's so much of resistance, everyone says there are power shortages, government doesn't give enough incentive. This is the best that we can give. And I did visit number of employment sites in the construction sector and textiles. There was than sweatshops. So there is no, there is a very strong reason as to why these people drop out in such huge numbers. And then my feeling and one basic concern is that we are triggering a tremendous migration from rural area to urban areas. About 75% of our candidates are from rural areas, but more than 75% of the jobs are in the cities. So this is something that we are pushing, and then they go and come back, and then they go again and come back, and that's continuing. So thank you for your time.